Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County. We come here from different places, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We come here for different reasons: to make connections, to seek spiritual growth, to nurture our hearts and souls. May you find comfort, love, and peace as we gather together in community. Now please rise in body and spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Where Our Heart Is in a Holy Place. Now please remain standing as we light our chalice. I'd like to invite Robin Queenan to come up and light the chalice for us this morning. As we light the chalice this morning, let us celebrate what we know at our core. Blessings are real and ours to claim and radiate. Blessings are abundant and ours to revel in and pass along. Blessings are transformational and ours to be challenged by as we grow towards the faith we know we can be. Please be seated. Well, good morning again. I'm Joe Miller, and it is my privilege this morning to be leading worship with the Reverend Andrew Weber, who is here this morning. He's a minister at Thomas Paine Fellowship in Collegeville. And blessings be upon us. It's taken me 3 years to get Reverend Andrew to sit in that chair. We're going to have Reverend Andrew come up, talk a little bit more about himself in the service this morning in a few minutes, but let me finish with the announcements. I also want to welcome those who are on Zoom this morning. You're welcome to remain online after the service for a virtual coffee hour. And those here in the sanctuary, there'll be refreshments afterwards in Fellowship Hall. I noticed the last few weeks, sometimes people get stuck in the lobby and never make it to Fellowship Hall. Just try to get all the way in there this morning, will you please? And this week we have Summer Sparklers, the Summer Religious Education Program here at UUCDC, run by Alyssa Franklin. Is Alyssa out there? No, oh, there she is in the back. Welcome back this week. Please make sure, it's intended for children preschool through 5th grade. So most of you can't attend, but a few of you can. If you are attending, make sure your child is registered, signed in at the welcome table out front. Well, you can do that when you leave with your child. That's fine. This morning, I think they're being picked up downstairs at 11 o'clock. Next Sunday, we will have Desiree Murphy Morrison as our speaker. This is a real treat, another real treat. During COVID, Desiree, she realized folks in her Upper Darby community many of them were suffering, didn't have access to adequate food and other services. And during that winter, she opened a food pantry in her backyard. And that food pantry today serves 3,000 people a month. They are folks who are needy. They have a variety of other community organizations that work within their area that use the pantry for various functions and so forth. And she's going to be here next week and talk about the impact of the Trump policies kind of at the grassroots level. I think it's going to be a great service. So please make sure if you're available, you can come to that. Actually, many of us have already heard her at least once. She spoke at the courthouse, I think, in the spring during the protest there. I know a lot of us were out there. So with that, I'm going to invite Reverend Andrew up to tell us a little bit about himself and the service this morning, and then lead us into settling into worship.
Good morning. I didn't know Joe was trying to get me up here for so long, but I've been here over COVID, so we had outside services. I was on Zoom services occasionally through the years. So it's good to be with you in person here. And I'm not going to say much about me. If you want to know a lot, ask the esteemed Reverend Carol Taylor, she was my MRE at Mainline where I grew up. But for now, I'm here from Delaware, serving in Collegeville, and so happy to be with you. Our settling into worship today is a children's story called Are Your Stars Like My Stars? And I know for some people, a video is very useful, having read to. If you want to read the book on your own, I got a copy from the library. If you want to come up, I can even you can come look at it now, you can look at it later. I just need it back because it is a library book. So if you want, you can come grab it. You can read it along. The video we're going to watch is set as a bedtime story. So if you do need to take a nap, you can, settle into that. But otherwise, we will continue worship after the service. So please, are your stars like my stars?
Hey, my name is Miles Smith. It's nice to meet you. I make songs, and my songs about love and hope and friendship. One thing I love about music is how it brings people together, especially here at Glastonbury Festival. We might be very different people from completely different places with different favourite things, but everybody loves a catchy song. And tonight's CBB story is about how people who might seem really different actually have lots in common. So join me for a moment, and let's enjoy the book, Are Your Stars Like My Stars, written by Leslie Helikowski and illustrations by Heidi Woodward Sheffield. We look at the world every day, you and me. Do we see the same things? Do you see what I see? When you squint at the sky, do you see the same hue? Deep, wide and open. Is your blue like my blue? When the sun gazes down, shining yellow and bold, is it warm, full of sparkle? Is your gold like my gold? When you dig in the dirt, planting seeds in the ground, is it earthy and rich? Is your brown like my brown? Do you splash in a puddle when the world is washed clean? Are the leaves fresh and bright? Is your green like my green? When you stroll in the orchard, do sweet smells fill your head? Is the fruit bold and flashy? Is your red like my red? Does your shadow grow long as the sun starts to sink? Are the clouds soft and rosy? Is your pink like my pink? When your eyes are shut tight, do you peek? Just a crack. Is the night smooth and sleepy? Is your black like my black? When you stare at the stars, do you see the same light? Does it glow in the darkness? Is your white like my white? We look at each other every day, you and me. Do we see the same things? Do I see what you see? How beautiful. The world is a big place, but wherever you go, you'll find that people have more in common than what sets them apart. And wherever you're stargazing, no matter how far apart you are, the people you love are staring at the same stars. Right now it's time to get some sleep, so snuggle up and dream starry, colorful, sweet dreams. Good night.
Now's the time in our service when we acknowledge those joys and concerns and hopes that we carry in our hearts this morning. And we do that with the ritual of placing a stone in the water, the bowl to the right. Lots of times we think about what the stone means. I think about what the water means. And what the water is our community to me. And when you place that stone in the water, you're handing a little bit over of yourself to this community. If you're so moved, please join in the ritual this morning. And I drop one final stone for all of those joys and sorrows and hopes that go unacknowledged this morning. We will now recognize a moment of silence, after which we'll sing Spirit of Life. Okay, time for Summer Sparklers. Now we're going to sing the children out, and we'll sing this, our singing out song 3 times. First time all together. Second time our teachers will leave for the lobby, and third time the children will go out. And remember to pick up the kids downstairs at 11 a.m. All right? Nobody forget them, okay?
We have a reading today. The reading is from an article in Psychology Today titled 3 Things You Need to Know About Perspective Taking. In 1956, Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget conducted an experiment conducted to identify the age at which children first learn to see the world through another person's eyes. He built models of 3 different mountains, one with a cross on top, one covered in snow, and one with a tiny hut on the crest. And he walked several children around the table to allow them to take in the whole scene. And then he set each one down at the table and produced a doll, which he put in a different location in his model, so that only 1 or 2 of the mountains would be visible from the doll's vantage point. And he did this experiment with kids of different ages, and the results showed real differences. Children up to 4 years old usually said the doll's perspective was the same as theirs. But 7 or 8-year-olds could consistently identify the correct perspective that the doll would have on the mountain scene. This experimental design, which came to be known as the 3 mountains task, helped Piaget conclude that up to 4 years old, children were predominantly egocentric or mentally limited to their own points of view. And after age 8, though, as Piaget stated, taking another person's perspective generally became possible. And since that time, the original experiment has been repeated and the results have been upheld. Now these days, however, the relevant question about perspective taking is not when does it start, but really something more like, when does it stop? Right? It's not difficult to generate examples of ease with which people fail to take on other people's point of view. I mean, think of the last petty argument you had with a close friend, a family member, a romantic partner. When they reacted with irritation or with anger to something you said, did you take a moment to consider how they might be right from their point of view? Did you see yourself from their perspective in that moment? Or perhaps consider the nation as a whole, which is so often described as more divided than ever. How often do persons in one political party take the perspective of the other? Of the very people whose ideas they find so distasteful. When confronted with a disagreement or a conflict, it's altogether too easy to dig in, to defend yourself, to reaffirm in your own mind while your point of view is the correct one. And when faced with this opportunity to see things from a new point of view, we need to know what we have to gain. First, taking another person's perspective can be highly educational. It's always wrong to believe that you personally know it all, right? Other people, even those with whom you disagree, are likely to possess some information that you do not. Tuning into their perspective can teach you something new. Furthermore, by taking in the information relied upon by others, you may be able to really deepen your perspective of your own world. Remember the children looking over Piaget's table with its mountainous landscapes. Each side of the table showed one distinct side of this 3-mountain vista, and none showed the whole bird's eye view. But you put 2 sides or 2 perspectives together, and you're closer to knowing and seeing everything that's on display. And lastly, the most important aspect of perspective taking is that it's known to be associated with empathy. Tuning in to the outlook of another person, trying to see the world through their eyes is not far from trying to feel their feelings and to understand what they feel and why they feel the way they do. These days, it's altogether too common to find yourself in the company of people you disagree with. Next time this happens, then, instead of rejecting what they have to say, try a little bit harder to see it from their point of view, based on what you know of their experience. You might confirm, deepen, or modify your own beliefs. You might be able to build empathy. In any case, you'll almost always learn something new. There ends our reading.
Now's the time in our service when we take the offering. This month, our Share the Plate recipient is the Media Food Bank. They help alleviate local food insecurity and are committed to improving lives by collecting and distributing food and resources to support the financially disadvantaged citizens of Delaware County. The ushers will now come forward to take the offering, which will be generously given and gratefully received.
And I'm going to play a song for you called Ruby's Shoes by Lori McKenna. It's about Ruby Bridges. Ruby's shoes would take her a mile or so to school every day, where the white people hated her. They'd scream and hold signs and tell her to go away. But Ruby's will was stronger than the bigots with the signs could ever know. She stopped every morning on the corner and prayed that someday the pain would go, and she'd stop and she'd pray that all the hatred would go away. She was only 6 years old, but she knew. Walk a mile in Ruby's shoe. Ruby sat alone in the classroom. She never dreamed the other children wouldn't come. They hated her for the color of her skin. Well, color is such an amazing illusion. She'd stop and she'd pray that all the hatred would go away. She was only 6 years old, but she knew. Walk a mile in Ruby's shoes. Now Ruby knew about Dorothy and the ruby shoes that she wore. She wondered about us sometimes. Well, no other child ever walked her shoes before, and she'd stop and she'd pray that all the hatred would go away. She was only 6 years old, but she knew. Walk a mile in Ruby's shoes. If birds can fly, then why, oh why? If birds can fly, then why, oh why can't I?
Thank you, Joy. I'm gonna try to move it back a little bit. Yeah, I feel like I'm being speared here. Yeah. There's a truth that we need to recognize, that all humans are not created equal. Our families of origin have different amounts of money. They have varying means of providing support or not. The education we received or receive or are receiving is based on geography, finances, time, access. Right? The ability of each person's physical body is diverse. Not all of us can play professional sports. Right? Not all of us can walk up the stairs to the local post office. The litany could take up the entire service, listing out all the ways that we're different, including race, sex, gender, identity, relationship status, age, height. But the truth I mentioned was not that humans are unique. It's that we are not equal. The problem is that many of these personal attributes and identities impact the value we put on ourselves and the value others see of us. All right, this country was founded on the equality of all its citizens. That needs unpacking. But it was founded on this ever-shifting, growing understanding of what equality and what citizenship means, and still holding this kernel of equality at its core. So when it became clear that much of our society was not fair, because that has become clear over the years, something had to be done. And I'm talking here about the civil rights movement, women's suffrage, women's liberation, Black Lives Matter, the Americans with Disabilities Act, legalization of same-sex marriage, all these movements coming from reimagining what a more perfect union is, right? Now, we constantly take the ideals of the Founding Fathers and update them for our current understandings, right? Because they held some truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, that didn't include men of color, or men who didn't own land, or women, right? Or any other host of people who didn't fit into this specific group. Not to mention the overt religious language in a country based on the freedom of belief. So there's some work to be done here. And there have been some problems in our country around fairness, around justice, around equity. And recently, people have started to recognize inequality and inequity in higher education and in employment, where people of European ancestry are overrepresented in more prestigious schools and higher paying jobs, where being female earns you less than a man with the same qualifications, where power remains where it really always has been, with the white guys. Right? I mean, that's where the power has started, and that's where it remains, with the straight white men. Now, beginning with the civil rights movement in the 1960s, initiatives have been put in place hoping to address some of this discrimination, right? If you want, we can even go further back. I was amazed when I was looking at this. It's like, oh yeah, civil rights, 1960s. But right after the Civil War, so 1870, there were government programs of promoting those who were at a disadvantage, including veterans and people with disabilities. 1870s, right? This is not new stuff. And in 1964, the U.S. Civil Rights Act prohibited discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or natural origin. In 1990, the ADA required employees to provide reasonable accommodations to employees with disabilities. Currently, we are in the ongoing debate. We are in the midst of this debate about affirmative action, about DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. The arguments arise specifically with the practice of schools and places of employment giving preferential treatment to people based on their identity or their identities. The concern is that we're letting people who aren't qualified take the jobs, take the places, take advantage of people who are more qualified. Now, DEI is not new. It's not new, and it's a really broad term. So saying like DEI is good, DEI is bad, it's like that's really broad. And it's not just corporate diversity training or preferential hiring treatments. Right? At its core, all of this work was imagined and implemented to promote fair treatment, especially to those who have historically been underrepresented, historically been discriminated against. So for me, a few questions arise, and especially recently. These questions are whether or not these initiatives work, whether or not they are fair. Right? Is the training at my work helpful? Is prioritizing people based on certain identities fair? And you know what? I am not sure on either count. I do not know. I do know that the past has not been fair. I do know that. And maybe meeting hiring quotas is a good way to address discrepancies in representation. But that doesn't feel good to me on a personal level, when someone might miss out on an opportunity because of their identity. But frankly, that's the way it's already been for many years, right? So what do we do? What do we do? Well, this question is sort of why another idea was invented, this diversity training, especially in places of school or work. How many of you have had diversity training in your school or in your job? That's a majority of us, right? One view was that, well, if people learned about diversity in their institutions, then individuals can shift their mindsets and the outcomes, maybe even without having hiring quotas and without matriculation quotas. We can actually have an institutional shift because we're teaching the individuals about diversity. This is personal education. Now, here is one point where data does exist, okay? Data exists on this. People have done studies, and studies have shown that diversity training does not instill a long-standing understanding or appreciation of another person's reality. In fact, these trainings can often heighten perceptions of division and increase feelings of resentment. Oops, right? Oh gosh. It's the opposite of what we were hoping for. And this is where I step in as a minister. This is me thinking like, okay, well, what am I thinking about this professionally? Because we were looking at a personal, intimate issue, and we're trying to address it with institutional and governmental solutions. So when has a government telling people how to think ever worked? I'm like, tell me an example. I could not think of one. When a government says, this is how you should think, it's like, that doesn't work. Right? It has to come the other way, that the government is informed by how people think. Government doesn't control our thinking, it provides guidance to our actions. And as a minister, I see some inherent flaws with the current approach, but I think that government intervention must exist to hold us accountable, must exist to help us strive for equity. But government policy is for action control, not for ideology control. So the problem is that as individuals, it's very, very hard for us to imagine what living in another person's life is like, right? I mean, I can only imagine what it's like for you. Literally, I can only imagine what life is like for you. That's the only option I have, because I have my perspective that I can work from. The Three Mountain Task shows us that when children can start to imagine another perspective apart from their own, they're like, okay, about 8, you can say, oh, the doll is seeing it this way and not the way I'm doing it. The problem is that it takes work, though. The problem is that it takes work that we often might not be aware exists, work that we might not want to do, or work that maybe we can't do. Is your green like my green, as the book stated? It's so eloquently put, speaking to the nuances and the assumptions of the task, right? I know what green looks like, so I know what you see when you see green. Well, I can look here and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 shirts that I would label as green. And you can look around like, oh, I don't count 6, and is that green, or is that forest, or is that lime? Like, this is just in naming a color. And then there's more. I only see what green looks like for me. And not only is perception of color through my contact lenses, through my eyes, but it goes through my experiences, my feelings, my understandings of color, right? I mean, we might experience the exact same hue, the exact same reality, but of a different emotional response. So like, oh, that green reminds me of that moldy bread I had. Oh. No, that's the Eagles green. It's like, well, there are two very different feelings right there, right? One is stomach churning and one is prideful. Or that's the green of being out in nature or looking past the minister to see the leaves coming out in the summer, right? These are very, very different. And your view of this worship service the view of the person next to you, they're going to be different, right? Even though it's the exact same experience. I have an example here. This is an example from my own experience, because that's all I can speak to. When my children were smaller, I was walking with a stroller doing some errands in downtown Newark. It's Newark, Delaware, Newark, New Jersey. I was in Newark. So I'm going around with my kids in the stroller. It's easy to imagine a father pushing children around town, and one of my errands was mailing a package. So I walked up to the post office. Oh, wait, there's like half a dozen stairs to get to the post office entrance. Okay, well, maybe there's a ramp around the corner. There was no ramp. The post office is a historic building, and it has a special dispensation that it does not have to abide by the ADA. So I had inadvertently put myself in one small experience of the daily life of someone who uses a wheelchair or a scooter. My privilege and the injustice of architectural discrimination struck me in the face as I struggled to find a solution to napping children and daily tasks. And for that brief moment, I got it. And I say brief because my one challenge was it was fairly easy to overcome, and it doesn't compare with living a whole life in a place not made for me. Oh wait, that's the issue right there. That's the issue. When women or people of color or people with disabilities or any other discriminated against group, and many other groups of people are underrepresented, are marginalized, or discriminated against, it shows them that this world is not made for them, that they aren't worthy, that they don't matter. DEI work tries to undo the years, the decades, the centuries of personal offense and pain through policy and through legislation, which is a movement in the right direction, right? It's a movement in the right direction, but to make real change, to really live into that inclusion that our faith talks about, work needs to start on the individual level. Unitarian Universalism upholds the worthiness of every person, of each individual, right? To say that someone isn't worthy of love or that they don't matter is pretty much antithetical to our faith. Our religion holds that everyone has inherent dignity. And this is why the work needs to start internally. It's a spiritual, it's a personal issue. If we say that each and every person is worthy of respect and worthy of love, then respect and love need to start with each person, and from there move into our institutions, move into our programs. So DEI, the dignity of human beings, systemic oppression, institutionalized discrimination, these are big issues, right? These are huge issues. The challenge, though, is also the benefit. It's the fact that we need to start in our heart means that we can start this work as individuals. We can start to experience and to listen other points of view, other views of the world, other realities with just as much validity and just as much truth as our own. I can try to experience what you go through. I can try to see the green that you see. But as we already mentioned, shared experience isn't always possible. It isn't always feasible or productive. So another option is I can listen to you. I can take some time and actually hear your perspective. I'm talking about individuals whom society discriminates against. I'm also talking about you, and him, and her, and them, right? I'm talking about all of you. Yeah, perspective taking isn't just about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Perspective taking is a religious imperative at the heart of our shared values of inclusion and worthiness. Unitarian Universalism says that we are important, that our life matters, that we have dignity. Our religion also says that your neighbor, your relatives, those people who support Trump, those people who vilify him, they too are important. They too matter. They also have dignity, right? The question then is, how? How do we get from saying everyone has worthiness to living it? Right. We're talking about seeing mountains from different viewpoints, about experiencing oppression in the world, about the same colors have different hues, different meanings. But how does this get from our heads to our hearts? I mean, it's easy, like, oh yeah, intellectually, okay, yep, we all have value. Oh my gosh. How do I get that here? With humility, with curiosity. And I have another story for you. A few years ago, my wife's extended family gathered in England for a reunion, and some of us were out walking through an idyllic field. You know, it's England. There's like rolling hills, a little mist, sheep grazing over there. It was wonderful. It was amazing. And we're walking. My father-in-law, he left us and he went up to an older gentleman who was shepherding, and he just chatted with him. And when he came back, we asked him, we said, what on earth did you talk with that guy about? You have like nothing in common. And my father-in-law answered, he said, I asked him about sheep. It's like, oh, of course. I mean, there you have it. That's the message of today, right? I mean, that's it. Meet people where they are. Engage with them where they are. This is a great first step of listening deeply, of taking perspective, moving toward understanding, right? Ask about what someone else is interested in, about what life experiences they have. And do you want to engage with a shepherd? Well, ask the person about sheep. Right? You want to engage with someone who's always looking at their phone? Ask about their apps, and not in a judgmental, like, what are you doing sort of way, but really with a sense of curiosity, right? An interest in their lives. Can you tell me more about the game you're playing? Or, I heard that TikTok was banned, and then it's not banned, and was it banned again? And I don't even know what TikTok is. Can you, like, explain to me what that is? Right? That's how we do it. What is the other person interested in? What does their life include? Ask about that with interest, an acknowledgement of their humanity, of their divinity. And this is the theological and the practical advice. To recognize the inherent worthiness, the inherent dignity of each other, we need to be curious about each other. We need to be willing to get out of our normal and meet someone where they are, right? And of course there is more, right? Of course there's more. Of course it goes on. I'm not going to grok the entirety of your essence by asking you about sheep. But that's a great starting point. That's a great place to build trust. That's a great place to go into maybe, oh my gosh, I had all this about sheep and another story came up, and can you tell me about your experiences with this? And oh, have you, why did you vote that way? Like, not just why did you vote that way? No. Why, like, what about that was meaningful to you? Where have you experienced systemic oppression? Oh, these are deep topics. You start with the ones that are trust building, and you get deeper and deeper. Again, with curiosity, not judgment. So what would that look like? What would that look like the next time you interact with someone from a different political persuasion? The next time you notice an example of discrimination, put your own feelings and thoughts to the side and approach with curiosity, with humility. What does the policy you support mean for you? Without rebuttal. Don't think I'm going to defeat their... No, just what does it mean for you? I noticed something that appeared unfair. How did that make you feel? With care. With care, knowing that people aren't required to answer. The task is to listen. To listen without thinking of what we will say next. To listen without thinking of why an experience is not valid. Just to listen. Perspective taking can be a very difficult mental exercise. Trying to understand another viewpoint. And taking this mental exercise to our heart, giving it emotion, making it real, it also creates a very vulnerable position. Putting voice to differences, putting voice to marginalization is hard, but it brings them both to light and helps with understanding. This is the work that must be done. The task is easy, the task is very difficult. Live your life as if you were divine and you are worthy of love. And live your life as if everyone you meet is divine and is worthy of love. And listen to them. Listen to their truths and their lives. Amen and amen. And we are ending with a closing hymn, which Joe will introduce. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Reverend Andrew. And now, please rise in body and spirit as we sing our closing hymn. This is my song. Now please remain standing as we do a little different benediction. And as you're comfortable, take the hand or bump elbows with the person next to you. Remember, the hand in yours belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, and whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand that you hold belongs to a person who is seeking wholeness and trusts that you're doing the same. As we leave this sanctuary, may our hearts remain open, may our voices stay strong, and may our hands remain outstretched. I want to thank Andrew for his talk today. Joy Thiessen for her wonderful music. The AV team, which does an awesome job. And our hospitality folks, Vicki and Elliot and other folks out there, thank you. Have a great day, folks.